Hello. So the next talk is on Resverhaal, a visual novel engine for the use in the classroom setting by Bas. Bas is a high school physics teacher who is very interested in the free software and hardware and writes code to solve problems. So let's give it a listen.
Hello, my name is Bas Wijnen and I will be talking about Lesverhaal. 20 minutes is only a very short time, so I'll get right into it. Lesverhaal is a visual novel engine with teacher supervision, and I will be talking about what that means and why I made it. I'll start by explaining what the problem is I'm trying to solve. So traditionally in class students get theory and then at home they will be trying out the problems to see if they have understood the theory. Recently modern development has been to flip the classroom as it's called, where the students will be getting theory at home using videos and then in class they will do the exercises, which means that they can ask questions while they're doing it, which is helpful. However, students are not very happy with that, so it's actually better to do both in class and also at home. So that's the idea, and Lesverhaal is trying to do the home part, so it's not meant to be used in class, but at home. And a visual novel is a really good tool for this because it's a game which is hopefully fun and it will also help. I will explain how. A visual novel tells a story using dialogue. It has a background, some characters are in front of it, and they talk. And that's the main way that information is given to the player. I'll show an example of this, the demo project from Ren Py, which it looks like this. So here you see a background with some text, and when I continue, then you can see the text changes, obviously. New scene, new background, and there's also a character here, as you can see. She appears using a fade effect. Now, except for that, there's also a question, which is here. So then this is a multiple choice question and I can choose what to answer. So if I will ask her right away, then she will actually ask me how class is and then the game continues. Now instead of doing a game that is just fun to read and to experience, of course I want to actually teach things so that it can be useful for homework. So the idea is to add physics to the stories, and the questions that will be asked should be problems that they need to solve to show that they have understood the physics. Now, if you want to make a visual novel, the program of choice to use would be Ren Py. Ren Py is an engine that makes it really easy to make visual novels. And so that's good because then the story writers can focus on their stories instead of how to make them. Also, it runs on many platforms, which is great because students obviously aren't all using the same platform, and if they are, it is probably Windows, and I'm not really fond of supporting that myself. So if Ren Py does, that would be very nice. And it's mature, so it doesn't break all the time like something that I would have written myself. However, there is also a reason, or there are several reasons why not to use Ren Py for this. And first reason, which isn't all that important because it can be done, is that open questions are not as easy. So if you want to do something other than multiple choice questions, then it will be a bit hard in Ren Py, but it's not undoable, and there's no reason to write a complete alternative. The second point, however, is teacher supervision is really hard. Ren Py runs on the local computer, and it will, well, if you really want to, you could store things on a file, but that's about it. And then you would have to tell your students to email the file to you or something like that, which they will not be able to do. And also, they need to install the software. Some of them will just pretend that they couldn't do it and that there's something wrong with the computer, and then now they cannot make their homework, and they're really happy about it. And others actually do fail to do it because they would want to do their homework. And it will not work. Even if it's really easy, as it is with Ren Py, it will not work for everyone. Yeah, that is an issue which I want to solve. And finally, I just like using software that I wrote. So that's really not a good reason, but it is definitely a reason that I wrote it. So that's why Ren Py is not the best choice in this case. And so I made Lesverhaal. Lesverhaal also has a developer interface that is similar to Ren Py, which means that it's really easy to make games, and you don't have to focus too much on the technical details, so that's good. The questions can be generated. That is an important point, because that means that they don't have to be the same for all students, which is nice. If they want to copy each other's work, it doesn't work, which is good. But also, if a student has trouble with the questions, they can just do it again and again and again, and they get new questions every time. So that's also a really nice feature. I made it so that the interface is actually a web interface, so they only need to have a browser and an internet connection to be able to use it, which means it will just work for everyone. It will even work on their telephones. So that's really nice. Of course, I made more question types, or well, more answer types, I should really say, because I want to, for example, allow them to do a computation and then tell the answer which is not multiple choice. And all the answers are, of course, stored on the server because it is running on a central server. And storing the answers is great because that way the teacher can see how they did, and that is really important in order to prepare for more theory, or maybe not if everyone already understands it. So now let's have a look what it looks like when it does the same part of story as the demo project that we just saw in Ren Py. So as you can see, it looks the same because I've just used the artwork from the Ren Py project. It just has text on the bottom, same as with Ren Py, slightly different look, but it's pretty much the same thing. It changes scene abruptly because I haven't done any fade effect. I also have not done any fade effect for the character, so instead I am moving her in from the side. Well, the rest, as you can see, looks very similar. I get a question which I can answer in multiple choice, so I do that. And now I have added something new, which is that I can answer with a single line here, and I will say good, which is the same as in the original, and I answer, and then it just continues. So it's very similar to how Ren Py works in the interface. So what kinds of questions are supported? Well, multiple choice, obviously, is the same that Ren Py uses most of the time. Single line, meaning you can just answer a single line. It's an input element in HTML. Multi-line or text area element, and also any of the above, but then with a multi-line explanation. So you can say a single line answer, but show how you got your answer, and that is a multi-line block. The reason I want to split it up that way is that I can then check the answer programmatically, but at the same time, I still want to see, when I look back at it, how they got there, so that they can see that they were doing the right thing, or maybe if the answer was wrong, I can see that they were actually doing the right thing, but they just made a tiny mistake. So that's also interesting. Then there's a hidden question which the player will never see, but it's just a way to add generated information into the overview that the teacher gets to see. So if you have a generated question, it is interesting to know what the actual question was, for example. And so the randomly generated parts, maybe you want to add a hidden question so that they will be stored, and then you know what question the student was actually seeing. The answers that are given, obviously the teacher can view all of them, and actually the teacher can see an overview of all students at once. And it's possible to change the, it's just a table, and to change the style of the cells in those table, in that table, so that you can see at a glance that most of the questions were answered correctly or not, and where the problems are. Is it all of the students or most of the students that were having problems with one question? Is it most of the students did it right, but one student had problems with most questions? Those kinds of things are really important in order to make sure you do the right thing in class, and so that's really useful information to have. So that is the teacher interface, where you can see all the information. Now, what is the good thing about this? Well, first of all, obviously the homework can be nice. It's a lot more fun. And I'm sure students will not call it fun, but I think they do prefer it over just dull problem solving. What is more important, I think, is that the teacher can spot problems early, because it's easier to check all of the students at once. Normally, when you say, well, you have this homework, and then you check a few students, what did you do? Or maybe you check all of them, but then you don't check all of the problems. And so you don't get as much information from just looking at their work on paper. So that's really good. And if you want to, you can show some statistics in class so that students know how they are doing compared to the rest, without shaming the ones who are at the bottom, and also without praising the ones at the top, in case they might not want that to be known, because that also may happen, that the rest of the class will actually give them problems for it. So you can make them know their position without telling any names, which is also nice. So what to do in the future? First of all, I want a better user interface. There is quite a bit of room for improvement, especially also more animation. So I have some movement options, but Ren Py has some great things that I don't have yet, like moving the entire screen or shaking the screen. It's a great effect if you use it right, and well, at the moment, Lesverhaal does not support that. Translations would be nice. Some other answer type, most specifically multiple choice, where you can select multiple answers, would be a good one. But also maybe things like making a drawing, or well, there's a lot of options. Now, that's just programming, and I can do that. But there's also something I really cannot do. I am not an artist, and I will need backgrounds, sprites, so the character sprites, music, sound effects, and maybe most important of all, stories. Because things need to be interesting to play, and all of these I'm just not really good at it. Stories I can do a little maybe, but yeah, the others really not my thing. So if anyone is interested in helping, that would be very welcome. And it would also be fun, I think. So if you are interested, please let me know. Send me an email, or first check out the code if you want. It's on GitHub. I may want to move it to Salsa at some point, but right now it's there. Yeah, you can check it out if you want to see what it does. And that's it. Thank you for your attention. And now I hope I will be able to take questions.
Thanks, Bas, for the talk. And we have the Etherpad and the IRC open for questions now. So till the time you put up the question in the Etherpad, Bas had some more stuff that he needs to add. So Bas, you can take the stage.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I don't really need to add it. I cut it because I wanted to leave room for questions. But until they are coming, I'm happy to talk about a thing that that I did in here, which I think I did the right things, but it's interesting to talk about, which is that students may want to make their own stories in this program. And so I allowed them to do that. But there's a pretty big problem with that. You can just upload files, obviously, but the stories actually contain Python code, which runs on the server. So that's a pretty big security issue. So what I did is that I run a script in a CRUD environment, which takes the information on the standard inputs and then outputs the stuff on standard out. The CRUD runs in a fire jail, which disables its network. So that the only thing you can really still do from a script is, well, Bitcoin mining or something like that. But there's also some limits on how long it can run, so that hopefully won't work either. So I think I have a pretty good system set up that users can write their own stories, and they can play them, and others can play them without risking security problems. Yeah, I really like that part as well. That's something that I thought was interesting to say, but I cut it out because of time. But apparently there was still some time, so that's good. Yeah, that's about it for now. So I'm not sure. I don't see any questions myself, but.
I see. Let's wait for a minute or so that if people have some additional questions or so, they can put up on the IRC as well on the Etherpad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about time. So let's end this talk. Thanks, Bas, for this talk and the insight you gave about your work, and Urbek for the direction. So see you around, and
Yeah.
thanks.
My pleasure. Thanks.